Hey, folks, welcome back to Rugby Ascendant segment here on Chris Wyatt Africa and on the Rugby Ascendant channel itself. My guest today, and let's see if we get this right because he says I do better than most people. My guest today is Wickus Groenewald from South Africa.
Close enough. Thank you very much, Chris. Nice to be here.
So Wickus, hoe gaan dit?
Het gaan baie goed, baie dankie. Hoe gaan dit met jou?
Oh, it's going pretty good with me. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it. There you go. So, folks, if you didn't know he was from South Africa, there's kind of the tip-off. Anyway, so Wickus and I met at the game earlier this season when I was invited down to Rugby ATL in Atlanta there in Marietta, Georgia. I went down there and watched them defeat Los Angeles, and quite a game that was. Wickus was in quite a jubilant mood after the game and was kind enough to grant me an interview right there, right on the spot. We had a little fun. We had to find some space over by the trees because the light was all messed up and there was music playing and everything. It was really loud, but we found a spot and we got your reaction. Well, let's talk about that game before we go any further, because we saw this weekend that the New Orleans team went to Los Angeles and defeated them. It was only their third loss of the season. They lost to Rooney, then they lost to you. Both were on the road after long trips across the country, so that might play a role. But this was at home. And Nola, a depleted squad that's lost a lot of players to injury, really played that game well and managed to pull it out. So let's talk about your game against LA. What was that like that night?
Like you said, I mean, obviously afterwards you're so jubilant and you've already got the adrenaline going and everything. It's an amazing experience, you know, and especially, I mean, I played against guys that I've seen play rugby when I was a little guy, little kid. So that was an awesome experience, scrumming against someone that I watched playing rugby growing up. Just in general, the team environment, it's amazing. You know, that's kind of the best thing about the MLR for me is anything goes. You know, you might be playing against a guy from a club. You might be playing against a guy who's had Super Rugby caps. You might be playing an international guy, you know. And I think that's what makes that game for us very special as well. Having beaten those guys who've got these, well, I think those guys always have a target on their back, being, you know, those caliber players. So yeah, being in that game, having played the way we did, it's a very proud feeling, I guess. But, you know, wary. You're never fully happy, and there's always a little bit to tweak here and there. So yeah, we saw some good things in that game, and I think we'd be happy with the outcome.
Well, I think that you clearly have taken to the Kool-Aid that Coach Scott Lawrence is issuing to players about. We took some lessons from that game. I mean, you guys could win 97-0, and Coach Lawrence's first comment would be, "Yeah, there's some lessons we learned tonight that we can improve on."
I think some guys might say he's a bit intense, but I think that's just the way his head works. You know, there's whatever we've been working on to work. If it works, then it's just a job well done. You know, but there's always something else to tweak, even if it's just in the system or an individual or whatever. So yeah, I love his ethic.
No, I agree with you. And I say it tongue in cheek because 36 years in the Army, I'm a bit of a perfectionist and myself. So I definitely appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely get that. But let's see. You are from South Africa and you grew up in Somerset West. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, no, actually, I was born in Somerset West. So I grew up in a little town called Caledon. Yeah. It's in the Overberg, the heart of the Overberg. Yeah, it's a beautiful place. I mean, I grew up with watching the rain and, you know, having beautiful lush fields around me and all that. I was very, very lucky. Yeah, grew up in Caledon. Had to commute. We lived on a farm a ways away there. And from there, I went to Paarl, played a bit of rugby for Paarl boys, did some athletics, was very, very lucky after that to go to the Institute, which was in Stellenbosch, the Western Province Rugby Institute. And from there, it's just been a very lucky, very blessed, very happy. You know, sometimes obviously a bit of a bump and a bruise then on the way, but yeah, very, very happy to finally have ended up here in America.
Well, if there wasn't a bump and a bruise on the way, it wouldn't be rugby. Then it would be soccer.
You know? Yeah, they say rugby is the hooligan's game played by gentlemen. Right.
I think the telling statement about rugby is that when the game was over, one team got slaughtered. I don't know what the score was. Let's say it was like 53-0 or something like that. But when the game was over, everybody hung out. They had a braai. They drank beer. They had a good time and people got along. It was none of this, you know, animosity that you see in other sports. Yeah. And I think that's one of the strengths of rugby. Would you agree?
Oh, definitely. I mean, it's a bit different, I'd say, in a like the professional environment. because I would agree with you that the animosity is definitely not there as in other sports. Because we tend to play each other more than once. Being my first season here, I feel like in the second game, the third game, you'd start to really have friends or like chums, in the other team. But that's definitely the best part of it for me, because on the field, me and Callum Gibbons, when we played DC the other day, we had a bit of a scuffle in a chat, and it's just within the game, it happens, and then afterwards smiled and shaking hands, and everyone's happy. At the end of the day, you have such a big respect for the guy across from you. In the moment, it's war, but afterwards, he's someone that took it upon himself to fight against you and do whatever. So yeah, it's a big respect thing, I think.
Well, and it's interesting because when I was down there in Atlanta, I didn't even know this friendship was there. But Mark O'Keefe from Ireland and DTH Van der Merwe, of course, is Afrikaans parents, but grew up is living in Canada. So he plays for Canada. Yeah. So DTH Van der Merwe and Mark O'Keefe, they're like best buds after the game. They're over there chatting and everything. And it turns out they are friends. And I didn't realize the connection. Yeah. So I did ask Mark O'Keefe this when I interviewed him. I said, so who dyed their hair first? Was it you or DTH?
Yeah, well, Marky is an interesting character any day of the week. So.
He is at that. He's an interesting guy. Fun to watch on a pitch, fun to talk to. So Paarl, that would be the location of the only monument in the world dedicated to a language, the Afrikaans monument.
I actually didn't know that it was the only one in the world dedicated to a language. But yeah, it's definitely, that's flipping cool. I didn't know that. Thank you for giving me some information about my hometown,
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, sorry, go ahead.
No, I said it's pretty cool. I've been there. It's an interesting monument because it shows the different contributions of the different sources that created, that led to the language itself. But yeah, no, Paarl, it's a beautiful spot, not far from Franschhoek and not too far from Stellenbosch. Beautiful location there.
Yeah, two I would say powerhouses, especially of South African rugby. Well, obviously I'm a bit biased, having been there myself. But yeah, me and one of my teammates, well, two of my teammates actually are from my opposite school, my opposition from Paarl Gym, in Johan Momsen and Ryan Null. Both of them were at Paarl Gym, whereas I'm actually the only Paarl Boys guy here at the moment. So yeah, it's a bit of a chat between us, always a back and a forth. And well, unfortunately, that last year we couldn't have our inter-schools, which is one of the biggest schoolboy rugby games in the world. Which is very sad. So hopefully maybe this year, who knows? At this moment, with whatever is going on in the world, it's not really on the cards, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I saw this morning, I reported earlier in my news program that the Springboks has suspended their training camp because Loot de Jager tested positive. So now the game against Georgia on Friday is in question. It's up in the air. And then, of course, that raises the whole question about the rest of the British and Irish Lions tour. I'm sure they'll find a way to go through with it. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. He's the fourth Springbok to test positive. So whatever protocols they're using, maybe they need to pay closer attention to it. It's a shame. Hopefully this nonsense will be past us and we can get back to a normal world because, as you mentioned, high school and varsity rugby is amazing in South Africa. Far bigger crowds than Currie Cup gets.
I'd say two of the biggest games that I've played was probably my inter-schools, which is obviously the first teams of those two schools, and definitely in Stellenbosch, the university final playing there. It's also about 25,000 people. I mean, it's an amazing environment. Just Stellenbosch itself with all the natural beauty around you in that stadium. It's like an electric cooking pot. I mean, I can't describe it. It's just a feeling that you have to be there, see it for yourself.
It's a whole different game when there's spectators in the crowd. It's been an exciting season there. It's been a big season. Now, when I asked for interviews for this week, I asked for you because I wanted to get back to interviewing you. But I didn't know you were going to score a try for me last time you played.
My girlfriend's been saying before every match, just come on, just score me a try, and every time I'm like, yeah, we'll see what happens. If the opportunity presents itself, you take it. But as a prop, you don't really, it's not really in the books. But
it's not in the cards normally.
Normally, but working hard. Like I said, obviously coming off a maul, and the boys just working hard around the corner. And I was just a lucky guy. I didn't even realize, but I scored it under the posts. And I felt so good, Yeah,
because the points are automatic.
Really awesome.
The conversion's automatic.
I've got a 7-pointer.
Exactly.
Feeling good about it.
That's pretty cool. No, it was well done. Yeah, that's a strength of Rugby ATL, no doubt about it. Even early in the season when there was some trouble with the kicking game, gaining territory and lineouts. Oh, we don't want to talk about lineouts. But even when the team had trouble gelling early in the season, that maul has been impressive all season. I would have to say, from my vantage point, and I guess I'm a little biased because I've become a bit of a Rugby ATL fan here, but I would have to say that the maul for Rugby ATL, it's been the most consistent, and it's been the one that's done the most for its team this year. You guys have really done a great job with that.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Yeah, we work hard at it, so try and get it there. I mean, personally, I enjoy them all, so
yeah,
I love it.
Cool. Well, I was always on the wing. I like running away from people so they can't tackle me.
No, I enjoy it there in the middle. That's why we play prop.
Well, I was always too skinny and too short till I got older. Then I was taller. But anyway, well, Wickus, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure chatting with you today. Best of luck. 2 games left. You're in the catbird seat, but you can't take your foot off the gas. You got to win those 2 games, then win in the playoffs, and maybe bring that silverware home. Robbie Petzer seems confident that you guys can do it.
Oh, definitely. I mean, like we said, it's there's a very, 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 very long list of ingredients that goes into winning a championship, and I think we're on the way of ticking the boxes, going down the list and making sure we're ready. So hopefully we'll see what happens. I'm pretty confident, but as I said, you never, what's the word, cocky. You're confident, but not cocky. So.
Yeah, that's what you want to avoid. You definitely don't want to be cocky, but I think with a coach like Scott Lawrence, you find it difficult to be cocky on that squad.
He'll cut you down pretty quick.
Hey, did you see the Eagles result against England at Twickenham? Oh my goodness!
Yeah, it was a huge game, eh?
It was. Second half was incredible.
It's awesome and exciting to see that the US guys are getting into that. Let's say into their groove, I guess. Getting everybody knows each other. They're trying to get the things going, and yeah, it looks good.
Well, the other piece of that's really cool is that now I did live commentary of the game. Some of my channel people were watching while I reacted to it, and I was very critical in the first half. But I mean, probably a bit unfairly. I mean, it's been 20 months. Also, I mean, Gary Gold only had these guys for like 3 or 4 days to train together. Yeah. So I mean, that's given that reality, that was a hell of a performance. And even with people go, well, the British and Irish Lions guys from South Africa. Yeah, but England is 3 and 4 deep at all those positions. So I mean, yeah. So it was pretty incredible.
I think if you go in the top 20 nations in the world, they definitely, you can't say just because the British and Irish Lions are out that England's, the next guy's just as good. I mean, He might be a bit younger, not as experienced or whatever, but I mean, those guys are playing for their country, same as you. So
yeah, next man up, and they're ready for it. Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, listen, Wickus, it's been a real pleasure chatting with you today. I do want to ask one final question before you go. USA. Any surprises when you came here? Anything to adjust to, or anything that you particularly find interesting you like?
Obviously, well, at this point in time when I got here, the driving is, everybody obviously says that the driving on the wrong side of the road and all that. But the weird thing happening to me now is my friends and family would send me pics from home, and then I'd be like, well, you're on the wrong side
of the car.
Yeah. I'd say the food is amazing. Just Atlanta itself has been awesome. The people here at ATL specifically, they made an effort to really make you feel welcome and at home. And I've just loved everything about my experience so far. Honestly, I can't think of anything that's really bummed me out. I mean, obviously not having the family and the girlfriend and all that, but it's just part of the road. Other than that, yeah, I'm loving this place. Awesome. Anyway, Wickus, bye donkey. It's been a real pleasure. Thank you very much. Have a good day. All right. Cheers.